Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Ukraine and Russia accuse each other of breaking Easter truce, a day after President Putin announced surprise one-day ceasefire. Iran-US task experts with framework for a nuclear deal after progress in talks. Massive landslides killed 3 people in India's Jammu and Kashmir. Over 100 rescued, relief operations still on. Paris Olympian Arjun Babuta clinches silver medal in the men's 10-meter air rifle event at the ISSF Shooting World Cup in Peru. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced an unexpected and brief unilateral Easter truce in Russia's conflict on Ukraine, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky insists that Russian artillery fire are ongoing.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin announced a unilateral Easter ceasefire on Saturday. He ordered his military to halt all battlefield action for 30 hours from 1500 GMT on Saturday until the end of Sunday.
Based on the humanitarian considerations, today starting from 1500 GMT to midnight Monday, the Russian side announces an Easter ceasefire. I order a stop to all military activities for this period. We assume that Ukrainian side will follow our example. However, our troops should be ready to repel possible ceasefire violations and provocations by the enemy. Our decision regarding the Easter ceasefire will show how sincere is the readiness of Kyiv regime, its desire and ability to comply with the agreements and participate in peaceful negotiations directed at eliminating the root cause of the Ukraine crisis.
The announcement came during a meeting with Russia's chief of the general staff, where Putin outlined the terms of the truce. Putin also issued a warning, stating that Russian troops should remain prepared to respond if Ukraine violates the ceasefire. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russian President Putin for already breaching the Easter truce. In a post on X, Zelensky said that fighting continued in Russia's Kursk and Belgorod regions and Russian drones were still in use, but added that some areas had become quieter. He reiterated his support for longer truce, saying that 30 hours is enough to make headlines, but not for genuine confidence-building measures. Meanwhile, Ukraine and Russia conducted their largest prisoner exchange since the conflict began over 3 years ago. 277 Ukrainian service personnel returned home from Russian captivity on Saturday, taking the total number of returned prisoners of war to 4,552. While Moscow's defense ministry said that 246 servicemen had been handed over by Kyiv, it said a further 31 injured prisoners of war had been handed over to Ukraine and 15 of its own wounded servicemen had also been returned by Kyiv. Putin's unilateral move followed Trump's announcement that it could abandon peace talks within days unless Moscow and Kyiv showed they were serious about negotiating. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, Russia claimed on Sunday that it had repelled Ukrainian attacks overnight in eastern Donetsk, accusing Kyiv of violating the unilateral Easter truce announcement by President Vladimir Putin. According to Russian Defense Ministry, Ukrainian forces attempted assaults in Russian-held Donetsk despite the holiday ceasefire. Moscow said its troops responded and pushed back the advances. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reiterated to continue military action in Gaza, stating that Israel has no choice but to keep fighting and vowed to eliminate Hamas. In a late-night televised address, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that he had instructed the military to intensify pressure on Hamas. His remarks comes as Hamas rejected an Israeli proposal for another temporary truce and instead demanded a deal to end the conflict in exchange for the release of hostages.
I have ordered the IDF to respond firmly and further increase the pressure on Hamas. We are in the war of rebirth, the war on 7 fronts. This war has very heavy prices, because any such loss is a world in and of itself. But we, as the people who desire life, have no choice but to continue fighting for our very existence until victory.
עד הניצחון.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu is facing enormous pressure at home. On Saturday, dozens of protesters clashed with police in Tel Aviv as they were demanding an end to the conflict and the release of the remaining 59 hostages held in Gaza. Families of Israeli hostages also demanded answers from Netanyahu about his plans to negotiate on the return of remaining hostages. In another development, Hamas on Saturday published a new video of Israeli hostage Elkanah Bobot, marking the third such video of Bobot to be published in the past month. The latest video showed Bobot with a shaved head sitting in a small room, speaking on a landline phone, and he also appears distressed and desperate. This clip also caused shock and concern about the safety of hostages. Iran and the United States agreed on Saturday to begin drawing up a framework for a potential nuclear deal after their second indirect meeting in a week. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi negotiated for 4 hours in Rome with Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff through an Omani official who shuttled messages between them. Later, speaking on the state TV, Araghchi described the engagement as useful and conducted in a constructive atmosphere. He also hoped Tehran will be in a better position to judge the possibility of reaching an agreement.
As I said, the negotiations were held in a constructive atmosphere, and I can say that they are moving forward, and we are moving forward. There is no reason for too much optimism. We cannot say that we are really optimistic. We must be very cautious, but there is no reason for much pessimism either. We must walk a middle path, reasonable and calm.
The top negotiators would meet again in Oman next Saturday to review the experts' work and assess how closely it aligns with the principles of a potential agreement. When the death toll from US airstrikes on an oil port in western Yemen rose to 80 on Sunday, marking the deadliest day since the United States escalated its aerial campaign against Houthis. US airstrikes on Thursday paralyzed the Ras Al fuel port in Yemen's Hodeidah. According to the Red Sea Ports Authority, the port, once used for export of crude oil and import of derivative products of oil and gas, now it is completely out of service. A few weeks ago, US President Donald Trump's administration announced a major military offensive against the Houthis. It also said the airstrikes were aimed at forcing the Houthis to stop threatening ships sailing on the Red Sea. Despite the US attacks, Houthis promised to carry out more operations. The United Nations Development Programme is hoping to deliver a $1.3 billion over 3 years to support Syria, including by rebuilding infrastructure and backing digital startups. A roundtable on Syria hosted by Saudi Finance Minister and World Bank is set to take place on the sidelines of the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank in Washington, D.C. next week. Since former Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad was toppled last year after a nearly 14-year conflict, his successors have called on the international community to lift sanctions imposed against the country during his rule. So far, most of those sanctions remain in place, with the United States and other Western countries saying the new authorities still need to demonstrate a commitment to peaceful and inclusive rule. In the United States, thousands of protesters rallied on Saturday across the country for a second major round of demonstrations against Donald Trump and his hard-line policies. Protesters carried banners and chanted, "Trump must go now," outside the White House in Washington, D.C. Some demonstrators chanted in support of migrants whom the Trump administration has deported or has been attempting to deport, while expressing solidarity with people fired by the federal government and with universities whose funding is threatened by Trump. People also took to the streets of Chicago to voice their concern to President Donald Trump's policies. People also gathered in New York City to protest against President Donald Trump's administration, chanting "No fear, no hate, no ICE" in our state. at the New York Public Library. The protesters later marched down Manhattan streets holding signs and waving US flags. Demonstrators also gathered in Miami, Florida to speak out against the latest actions by the Trump administration.
I think there's been dozens of impeachable offenses committed, and Congress is not doing anything. The courts are standing up, but we can't just rely on that. Our government is not functioning the way it was meant to in the Constitution.
He's done so much to destroy our country in less than 100 days.
A group of protesters also marched in Texas, showcasing their displeasure with Donald Trump's strict policies.
Lost too much already. We can't afford to do that. We're doing this for civil rights, human rights, the protection of all of the agencies that protect people's laborers and finances, so many things.
I thought it was important to be here because so many people are really unaware of what is actually happening. And a group of people who have been driving by here on vacation, people who are driving by here anyway, it makes them at least see it and makes them maybe go back and look it up and question it and see what is really happening with our government and the rights that are being taken.
A Soyuz spacecraft carrying an American and 2 Russians touched down on the steppe of Kazakhstan on Sunday. A Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft spanned 220 days in space. NASA astronaut Don Petit, Russian cosmonauts Alexei Ovchinin and Ivan Wagner orbited the Earth 3,520 times and completed a journey of 93.3 million miles over the course of their mission. Russia's Roscosmos space agency said that its deorbiting and descent to Earth were normal. Well, let's see what's happening around the world. The Baghdad International Fair featured 13th International Security, Defense and Cybersecurity Exhibition with international participation and prominent displays from the United States, China and Iran. The exhibition presents a platform for exchanging expertise and discovering the latest technology in weaponry, ammunition and surveillance systems from foreign companies. Algeria anchored chefs from 14 countries to compete for Best Traditional Dish in 3-day culinary art festival. The competition is a celebration of cultural and culinary heritage of participating countries and aims to promote the exchange of cooking knowledge. More than 180 participants from Algeria and abroad, including Turkey, Syria, Italy, Egypt and Russia, cooked together the most traditional dishes in tents. And Scotland hosted Corgi dogs racing head-to-head on Saturday, participating in an annual Corgi Derby at Musselburgh Racecourse. This year's event saw 4-year-old Corgi Juno race to victory. First launched in 2022 to mark Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee, the Corgi Derby was created to celebrate the breed, which was the late monarch's favourite. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Prime Minister Modi to embark on 2-day visit to Saudi Arabia from April 22nd. Visit to further strengthen the already robust ties with this strategic partner. US Vice President J.D. Vance to be on 4-day visit to India starting Monday to hold talks with Prime Minister Modi. A fisherman died after being swept off rocks near Sydney on Sunday, bringing the Easter weekend drowning toll to 6.
Nature gives and we take, and sometimes a little too much. But what happens when this balance tips and who is the most impacted? Let's take a look at some of the solutions that are trying to help these communities.
We want to encourage people to consume more local products. These were caught in environmentally friendly nets, not farmed. That makes a huge difference.
Project Tangaroa. It's working to build a global framework that can help identify which wrecks need to be taken care of first and find the funding for cleanup missions.
We use SLR organic fertilizer for our plants. With organic fertilizer, the yield is better. and the soil's health improves.
You're watching DD Live. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. Tragedy struck India's Jammu and Kashmir in the wee hours of Sunday as heavy rain triggered flash floods at different places in Jammu and Kashmir's Ramban district. At least 3 people were killed and over 100 were rescued. Rescue and relief operation is underway. The incessant rain also triggered landslides and mudslides along the strategic Jammu-Srinagar National Highway, prompting traffic to be suspended. Ramban District Administration has released emergency contact numbers for 24/7 help at District Control Room, and these numbers are 01998 295500 and 01998 266790. Multiple parts of the Union Territory, including Jammu and Udhampur, have been experiencing heavy rainfall in the past few days, causing National Highway 44 to be blocked. Indian Met Department has also issued a warning for severe weather conditions in Jammu and Kashmir between April 18 and 20, citing the influence of an active western disturbance. The India Meteorological Department's 7-day forecast for Delhi indicates hot day with maximum temperature in the range of 38 to 39 degrees Celsius. The sky conditions will remain partly cloudy until April 22nd and turn clear after that. Strong surface winds during the daytime have been forecast on April 23rd and 24th. The maximum temperature is expected to reach 40 degrees Celsius on April 26th. No heat wave condition has been forecast until April 26th in the national capital. IMD also said heat wave conditions are likely to abate in Rajasthan from April 20. The IMD also issued an orange alert in parts of Uttarakhand with gusty winds sweeping through the state of Himachal Pradesh. Meanwhile, the Met Department has predicted a fresh spell of heavy rainfall likely to impact northeast India from 22nd of April. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a 2-day visit to Saudi Arabia on Tuesday at the invitation of the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman. PM Modi will be welcomed in Jeddah by Crown Prince himself. The two leaders will co-chair the second meeting of the Strategic Partnership Council. Several MOUs between the two sides are also expected to be signed after the bilateral talks.
Bolstering defence and economic ties will be the key focus for Prime Minister Modi when he comes calling on Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman will receive Prime Minister Modi here in Jeddah, and the two leaders will co-chair the second meeting of the Indo-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council. This will be Prime Minister Modi's first visit to the kingdom during his third term as Prime Minister, though the Prime Minister has previously visited Saudi Arabia twice in 2016 and 2019.
The visit is important also on account of the obvious significance of Saudi Arabia as a strategic partner for India. You're aware of the salience that this relationship has for India's energy security. Saudi Arabia hosts a very large Indian expatriate community, possibly the second largest expatriate community of its kind anywhere in the world. Saudi Arabia is a leading voice in the Islamic world and is increasingly playing an important role in regional developments. And therefore, from all of these perspectives, the visit provides an opportunity to build on the already strong relations with this strategic partner.
The visit would see signing of several memoranda of understanding between the two sides in various sectors, including energy.
We signed the memorandum of understanding in the field of electrical interconnections and green and clean hydrogen and supply chains. The electricity grid interconnection MOU is something on which work is expected to start imminently in terms of a study to lay out the feasibility of this connection, but we see the possible agreements between the two countries on clean hydrogen as another very important trade-linked initiative under this.
Apart from the bilateral aspect of the relationship, the Russia-Ukraine war will be a significant area of discussion between the two leaders. The ongoing tensions in West Asia and concerns over Houthi attacks on commercial shipping are likely to figure in the talks. During his two-day visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also visit a factory in Jeddah and interact with Indian workers there.
Given that Saudi Arabia is home to a 2.7 million strong Indian diaspora, the talks would focus on how to increase the participation of Indian workers in Saudi Arabia's economy. The Prime Minister shall also be visiting a factory to meet Indian workers here. The talks would also focus on how Saudi Arabia could increase the quota of Hajj pilgrims from India. With my colleague Neeraj Singh and cameraman Saurabh Bakshi, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Jeddah.
Speaking about the significance of the upcoming visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Jeddah, Indian Ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Suhail Ajaz Khan, highlighted how bilateral ties have evolved in recent years.
This visit is very important as we are strengthening our strategic partnership. India and Saudi Arabia are age-old friends, and the strategic partnership in recent years has really strengthened, diversified, and has given a new direction to the bilateral relationship. A wide range of talks are expected to take place in various fields of bilateral interest: economic engagement, defense partnership, energy partnership, and many other issues related to the regional and global political scenario.
US Vice President J.D. Vance will be on a 4-day visit to India from Monday, 21st April, marking his first official trip to the country and his first to Asia since President Donald Trump took office. Accompanied by his wife Usha Vance, their children and senior officials, Vance will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday in New Delhi. He is also scheduled to visit Jaipur and Agra during his stay. The visit aims to strengthen bilateral ties and discuss key regional and global issues. A fisherman died after being swept off rocks near Sydney on Sunday, bringing the Easter weekend drowning toll to 6. The incident occurred at a Watermala beach where 2 people were winched from the surf, but one couldn't be revived. A 14-year-old boy who was with the fisherman is in stable condition in hospital. The death toll continues to rise amid hazardous surf conditions along Australia's east coast, with searches ongoing for 2 people still missing since Friday. Surf Life Saving Australia had warned of strong swells and hazardous conditions and is urging people to prioritize patrolled beaches and exercise caution near the coast. The Indian Armed Forces are set to host the 2nd edition of the Tri-Services Future Warfare course at the Manekshaw Centre in New Delhi. Scheduled from April 21st to May 9, the initiative is being led by Integrated Defence Staff and coordinated by the Centre for Joint Warfare Studies. Building on the success of first course held in September 2024, this 3-week program prepares officers for challenges of modern warfare. The course has a rank-agnostic approach with diverse participation. The course focuses on developing an understanding of technology's impact in modern warfare. Mizoram celebrated the day with Salvation Army course, proclaiming the resurrection of Jesus through music in different parts of the state. In addition to celebrating Mass, most parishes hosted a community feast. The attendees listened to sermons based on various themes throughout the day. The North Indian state of Nagaland celebrated Easter Sunday with a sunrise service attended by hundreds of churchgoers from various denominations at Kohima local ground. During the worship service, Nagaland Baptist Church Council delivered the message while a choir from Kohima Lotha Baptist Church and KD Baptist Church presented a song each on occasion. Finally, after invocation prayer, the event concluded on a celebratory note. India's ace shooter Arjun Babuta clinched silver medal in the 10-meter air rifle event at the International Shooting Sport Federation World Cup in Lima, capital of Peru. Babuta held the lead for most parts of the final but lost the gold medal by 0.1 points to Olympic champion Sheng Lihao of China. The 24-year-old, who missed out on the podium at the Paris Olympics by a whisker, finished the Lima World Cup leg final with 252.3 points. Istvan Penny of Hungary won bronze medal. India's tally at the end of day 5 of the competition stood at 5 medals to sit on third position. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.